What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and we are back with another video on the much-awaited Resident Evil 4 Remake. Specifically, in this video, we'll be focusing on a recent interview which sheds light on RE4 Remake and just how true to the original it really is. Before we get into the swing of things, I ask that you like this video and consider subscribing. Not only does it help out with the algorithm, but it means that you won't miss out on the RE4 Remake content that's to come. With the game being just 3 months away at this point, ever since its announcement, fans have been subject to a whole slew of rumors that decidedly seem to focus on the game featuring a lot of its content being cut. Coming off the back of the recent Resident Evil remakes, it's no surprise that fans are currently anxious. After all, Resident Evil 3 Remake was a considerably cut down version of the original. RE fans, as usual, had already begun to speculate the absolute worst, that one of the three main areas that comprises the original Resident Evil 4 experience, being the village, the castle, and the island, in the remake would either be cut down considerably or removed entirely. This speculation was further compounded upon when all of the trailers up until this point that we'd seen had only featured gameplay from the first area, the village. All of that now, however, can pretty much be swept under the rug and forgotten about thanks to a new interview conducted by Edge magazine featuring RE4 Remake producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi, who just so happens to confirm that the village, the castle, and the island will all indeed be featured in RE4 Remake. To quote Hirabayashi directly, he states, "The development team was divided into independent subgroups, each given a different area to develop: the village, the castle, the island. These teams worked separately before their work was brought together to see how each overhauled element worked with the others to create a holistic experience." Going on to state, "Our approach was quite granular. We took 100 individual small elements that made up the original gameplay experience and remade and polished those building blocks." So there you have it, plain as day confirmation from Capcom themselves that they will not be cutting out large chunks of content from Resident Evil 4. In fact, it seems like the opposite. They've taken great care to ensure that the original experience remains intact, albeit with a new coat of paint and modern polish. Honestly, I'm not shocked or surprised whatsoever. Yes, of course, there was some uncertainty thanks to how Resident Evil 3 Remake was handled, but Resident Evil 4 is in a league of its own, not just to the fans but to Capcom themselves, considering how many releases and re-releases this game's had and how well they've sold. There was absolutely no chance that Capcom would take a giant risk by altering the original formula too much, as they'd risk alienating fans altogether. Moving on, there's another point of this interview that I think is worth talking about, and that is some of the changes that they've made to the cutscenes. Paraphrasing what Hirabayashi says here for brevity, he states that they developed the character drama and specifically the interactions between characters and their personalities. He states the original RE4 was more gamey in a sense that cutscenes were merely there to serve the pacing of the game. They've tried to ensure that this remake feels like a thoroughly modern story-based single-player experience, and as such have made changes to facilitate that. What I think they mean by this is that they've largely remixed or removed cutscenes entirely to better suit the story in RE4 Remake. I'd imagine that certain cutscenes in the original Resident Evil 4 have now been turned into playable segments, or dialogue between characters now, instead of being a cutscene, will largely just play out during gameplay. Judging from the gameplay and cutscenes we've already seen, we can see that RE4 Remake is already going to have a different tone compared to the original. That doesn't mean they're going to cut out the cheesiness entirely. Of course, we know Leon still has some of his quips, but the game certainly has a darker tone, and I think they're going to change some of the cutscenes and just the story in general to suit that tone better. What I'm more interested in is if they're going to keep the statue chase sequence that was in the original RE4. It was already somewhat out there for the original game, and I just can't see them keeping it in here and playing it straight in the remake. But that about does it for what I want to cover in this video. If you want to read these quotes in their entirety, I'll leave a link to the source in the description below. Let me know your thoughts on RE4 Remake in the comments section. March 24th is just around the corner. Are you going to be picking it up day one? Are you interested and excited due to the changes that they've made? Or are you a stickler for the original experience? With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.